and welcome to part 2 of The Last Bash, the story of 27 glorious years of the Purple Helmet motorcycle display team. Joining me are Derry Kissack and Jim Davidson from the Purple Helmets to share their memories with you. Firstly, Derry, your commentary has become legendary.
Never. I was thrown in the deep end there, actually, because I wasn't at the time a professional commentator. We'd called a few things in my time, but I remember this particular night at Donkin Stadium. Roy Moore was there. The second performance, it was 96, and we put on a great show for the crowd, I have to say that. It really was good. Roy had other commitments, and he said to me, I've had enough of this now. And he said, I really didn't want to get roped in as a permanent commentator. I'm going to pack it in, you see. So some of the lads, they said, well, why don't you do it, Derry? And I said, well, I've never really commentated before. I've told a few jokes at the Southern dinner, but I've never really done a commentary. Anyway, when you're faced with a stadium full of people and a microphone in your hand, you have to say something. And you've been there yourself, Simon. The first time, I think it's like Jimmy said, a bit of stage fright, and your mouth dries up and you think, I'll have to say something.
Well, the best things, though, Derry, is that when we have the wheelie bins, as you know, Simon, the wheelie bins have all got names on, you see. Yes. So when we're doing the races, and so what I think of is, what's the most I can get away with on the wheelie bins, you see. And so each year there's new wheelie bins with different names on. Well, I use this particular publication called Viz, which is like a magazine which is for the lads and stuff like that. And they have all these words for different sorts of things, you see. So we all know what these things mean, but the crowd obviously don't. And the best part of it is to listen to Derry having to do the commentating, because he has to say these words. And for us, it's just hilarious. We're all sitting back listening to him doing this commentary. We're not in a wheelie bin. And it's hilarious.
But it so suits it, doesn't it?
It does.
It so suits what
we do try to push the boundary a little bit with things like that. We just push it a little bit further, to the point of, like, I think that's far enough.
I'm very proud to say, Simon, that I've never sworn, and I don't believe in swearing in front of the children and that sort of thing. The worst word I've ever said is shite. Now, if the kids don't know that, they never will. And they kind of do now anyway. They know it now if they didn't know it before. But I remember one time I couldn't go to do the show, and the lads were hired by a bit of a mothers' union group up in Walsingham in Durham. And they said, well, who's going to do the commentary? Well, Keith Lunt, our old friend, he still rides with the helmets, Keith. Billy Blunt is his nickname. Billy decided he would do the commentary. Well, he wasn't quite as careful, maybe, as I was. And when I say that cunning stunts at speeds approaching 100 miles an hour, he got it back to front.
Oh, heck.
Well, they were only on stage for about 5 minutes, and the plug was pulled out of the microphone, and the speakers shut down, and they were sacked.
It was like a silent movie, wasn't it?
Because apparently this group of people, I think it was rather akin to a round route show rather than a big show, and they thought that they'd hired the white helmets. Well, they hadn't.
But of course, the decision to put the lid on the present form of it anyway.
Well, my only claim to fame, Simon, was I said that I'd got them into showbiz, because these lads were out there anyway, and clever as they are and good riders. All I ever did, and Jimmy will back me up, I got them into showbiz.
Yeah, but the thing is, Derry, you couldn't have done it without us.
No, I couldn't. So now, to bring it to an end, after 27 years, it seems incredible where the 27 years have gone. We came to a decision, I think, that rather than let the thing slide and go downhill, we'd rather finish on a high. Well, we've still got the same mentality, because we can get new guys, they can put a coat on, but they don't think quite the same as we do. And this is how it's the ethos, I suppose, is the word. It's grown through the years, and we only have to look at each other in the pub and we start to laugh, and we'll say, I know what would be funny. and then Big Finnegan will say, "Aye, I suppose you want me naked." You see, and so this is how it develops. And without these original main men, it can't really continue in the way that it has. And so sadly, and it is a sad thing to say, we're going to stop while we're still ahead.
But to entertain 150,000 people that come to the Isle of Man every year for the TT. They love the TT, they love watching and this is such a contrast to, I mean, don't take the wrong way, but the seriousness of the TT can be sometimes the tragedy of it. This just enlightens everyone.
Well, we did aim to start with to enlighten the mood. A lot of people are too serious in life in general. They just drudge through life. Well, we try to break that cycle and have a bit of fun. And nobody could say that we didn't try. We certainly tried hard, and it's been a very, very big part of the TT. Some of the people that come over don't watch the races, they just watched us. I know that for a fact from people that have come from across.
You have travelled far afield, though, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we have.
By invitation or just invasion?
Well,
invasion a bit, mainly, yes.
We've performed in Belgium, at Mette in Belgium. We've been to all over England, Scotland, Offord, up by Aberdeen. We've been to Edinburgh numerous times, and
well, places that we haven't been invited to, where we go on the 6th day in Douro. We've been as far afield as New Zealand. We've been to Brazil. We've been to Chile. Most of the Eastern Bloc countries in Europe, France as well, Germany, and well travelled. Yeah. And I look back at that and I think there's some of the places that we've been to that you would never have been to as a visitor, because they weren't the tourist destinations, if you like. They were more the real place where people lived their lives. And it's great when you see that, when you see how people live in these different countries. And we would never have experienced that in a normal sort of tourism type holiday. Mm-hmm. So we saw the real places, the real countryside, the real towns, the real people. Yeah. And it's an amazing experience, and it's something that I'll always remember, is these places that we visited. Not always welcomed, but the Czech Republic was one place in particular where, it became a republic, split up from Czechoslovakia, and we went there one year, and within 2 days we were stopped by the police on our bikes, had our bikes confiscated, or they were locked up at the hotel, so we weren't allowed to use our bikes again, because they threatened us that if we did, we'd be put in prison. And so we were out with this one day on our bikes, and the police pulled us in, and they were looking at all sorts of reasons to find the guys, and some of them got carted away in police cars. We got photographs of it, haven't we, with them getting carted away in police cars. Other guys were getting fined for having no backlight, and somebody would get fined for having no indicators, and the police were thinking of all sorts of things. And so it was just one of those holidays where we didn't have our bikes with us. We had to get taxis everywhere because we weren't allowed to use our bikes.
You talk about these trips to Europe, though, and the reception you got, and being on the road together as well as performing together, and that goes to show what Derry was mentioning, Jim, that family side of it. It's like a family. I
think what it was, we're a like-minded bunch of lads that knew each other from years ago. We all did motocross, we all did enduro trials, that sort of thing. So we all had, and a lot of us had a very, very similar, some say warped sense of humour, very dry sense of humour, and sort of pushed the boundaries of it. So when you get a bunch of like-minded lads like that, things fall into place very, very easily. You can socialise, you can do the serious stuff on the bikes, and then have the fun on the bikes as well. So it was a great mix of people and different personalities as well. You get somebody who's a bit quieter, who would come out of their shell after a few beers, and you get the showman, like Wig. Wig was one of our showmen, Wig Ragazzi, absolutely amazing. He come out with some stuff that you can't, you couldn't script it, and he was great, wasn't he, Derry?
Oh, Wig was genius. It is unique, and things like the black painted crash helmet, that was always a mystery to hundreds of kids every year in Auckland Stadium, and their mothers. And,
ACU approved.
I used to say in the advert for Auckland Stadium, Dad, why are the helmets painted black when they're called the purple helmets? And he said, "Shut up, son, you'll have to ask your mother." And so many mothers had a red face in Onken Stadium. It was quite amazing, really. But poor old mum had to explain it to the kids.
But, you know, the videos are still available, and people still get them out now and again if they can't get to the live performances. And can you still get them?
It has to be said that one of our original riders, Dave Riley, he was instrumental in making the first video that we did. And it's, what was it called, Jimmy? Total Shite, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And it actually outsold all other video titles that Duke had at the time. And I think up to then the bestseller had been No Limit with George Formby. And in its first year, Total Shite was an absolute sellout and topped No Limit by quite a few thousand sales. It was quite amazing, really. And they are still available. They're a piece of history, Simon. Yeah. It is history. It's part of the history of the TT and of the Isle of Man, I would say. It's been a wonderful time that we've had.
We've added an extra trumpet to get extra thrust, but I would recommend not to stand too close behind them, everybody. It's Methane Man! I've never seen it before. I've seen it before in Hampton. He's all over, man! He's all over, man! A bit of a photograph because he hasn't really got enough room here, I don't think. He's going to do his best. He will do a complete 360-degree turn on the Honda 90. His legs are up now. And all the heat goes, everybody! Yes! Let's give him something. Very, very difficult.
You're listening to The Last Bash, a look back at 27 glorious years from the Purple Helmet motorcycle display team with Derry Kissack and Jim Davidson.
And what memories do you take away from it all, Jim?
For me, it's just you get the butterflies before you do a show, and I still get it now. 27 years and however many 100 shows we've done, you still get that butterflies at the start of it, the excitement of doing the shows, the fun of doing it. And we're laughing ourselves while they're doing the shows, we're having fun ourselves. And I think that, to me, is the fact that we can still do it after all these years and still have the fun and go out on a high. For me, that's great. It's never lost its magic for me, never. It's always been, yes, we have our moments where the boys need a bit of a G up from time to time because things go wrong, and the wrong things go wrong, if you like. So, but ultimately, for me, it's just probably been the best fun I've ever had in my life. It just really has. It's been brilliant.
But for you, Derry, I mean, there'd be so many that you'll remember when you've gone home.
Royal Appointment as well.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Royal Appointment.
We've actually done shows for royalty at Government House, and I'm very pleased to say, actually, that we're going to do one final show at Government House with the new governor and his lady, and I'm very pleased about that because all the years have gone by, and 20 years ago at Government House, Prince William was there, and I was very friendly with Ian McFadden, and I still am, actually. He comes to see me when he visits the island. And he said to me, of course, he was the commander of air forces in the first Gulf War. And he said, I've got a few of the chaps coming over, he said, for TT. And there was Sir Peter de Billiere, and he was Jim? He was the ground forces, and all these top guys anyway. And he said to me one day, would you do a show for them? And I said, I'm not sure if they're ready for us at Government House. And he said, oh yes, he said, leave it to me. So we did this show for these guys, and Ian McFadden, as he was then, he's Sir now, he's knighted since, but he came out of the house personally with a silver tray with all the beer on to give the lads a beer. And they were wonderful days. And we went up there a few times, Jim, didn't we? There must have been half a dozen shows at Government House. And I suppose the big one, there's a picture of it actually in the Craigna Bar with Prince William as a young lad.
When he had hair.
And he had a full head of hair. And he was there. And we did a show for him. And afterwards I said to him, I'll bet you'd like to sit on one of these bikes, Your Highness, and try on a big coat. And he said, rather nervously, he said, oh, rather. He said, I really would. So one of our guys, who we call the polecat, and you'll probably have to know him to know why, he sweats quite a lot. He was the first to whip off his coat and offer it to the prince. Well, the prince took his Savile Row jacket off and swapped with the polecat. Well, Robbo, the polecat, he put the Savile Row jacket on, and Prince William put the big coat on. And
pungent coat.
With pungent coat. There's a wonderful picture of it. And the lads had been out on the tracks all day, so it was quite moist in the armpits, this coat, as was Robbo, the polecat himself. And Ian McFadden told me afterwards that whilst the prince ate his dinner, he kept sniffing the armpits of his coat, and it was quite a legend in Government House that the prince's hand-stitched Savile Row jacket was probably binned when he got home, I should imagine.
Well, it was quite funny because Robbo had the coat, had the prince's jacket on, and he was flexing his shoulders to see if he could burst the seams on it.
And then he was rooting in the pockets, and he said, "There's not so much in your pockets, Your Highness." And we thought at the time, well, there goes our knighthood, there goes our ME.
But it was quite funny because they said that same evening when he was chatting to us, when Prince William was chatting to us outside, one of the guys came out again with the silver salver, and there was tins of Boddington and cans of lager on this silver salver as he came over to us. And so when Prince William was chatting away to us, must have been 10-15 minutes chatting away to us, he was then called in for his tea, wasn't he?
Yeah, he said, your dinner will spoil, Your Highness. And
so we were saying to him, he looks like you're getting called in for your tea now. But he was talking about coming down to Bushies with us and putting a coat on and a helmet so that nobody would recognise him.
But took it in the spirit of
absolutely.
What it was.
Yeah.
I suppose that's actually the nearest thing we ever got to doing a show at Windsor Castle, because from the Isle of Man, Ian McFadden and Sally, they went to Windsor Castle, and he was the master of the tower, and he said to me, I'm going to see if Her Majesty would like to have you down for the Royal Windsor Horse Show. And I remember thinking, I think
that's not going to mix.
I think Sophie and Edward were there that night, the Duke of, was he Wessex or so? I can't remember, but he said, I said, I'm not sure if Mummy would be ready for us down there. And he said, you leave Mummy to me. He said, I'll ask Mummy. Do you remember Jimmy?
Prince Edward, yeah.
He was a damn fine chap, actually. We thoroughly enjoyed each performance down there.
Yeah, but from the general sort of, the local crew reaction to it, to what you've just been speaking about them, I mean, they're once in a lifetime sort of memories and things that can happen on the spur of the moment, really.
Once in a lifetime, because not many people have experienced that. They certainly haven't experienced what we have. And Bill Dale has been a great friend of ours all the years. Bill, the beach buddy, he's been great. He's come on quite a few trips with us to take wonderful pictures and that sort of thing. Dot Tilbury's been a great help to us. When I was out of action, smashed up by the German, Fritz, as I like to call him, she came and did the commentary, just stepped in at the last moment, and good friends, good Manx people that have helped us along the way.
Yeah. But I mean, the riders themselves, I mean, do you have a record of everyone who's took part in it? How many would it have been?
Well, we can remember, but I think at one time I tried to reckon it up, and this is many years ago, that if everybody turned out, because we don't always get the same gang at each show if some can't be there, because don't forget, we're not professionals. Everybody has a job in the daytime, and
I think the biggest turnout we had more recently was about 4 years ago when we all met at the Quarterbridge car park by the pub, and we were all lined up there, and there must have been about 25 or 26 of us that day, all heading out to the railway to do a ride through the pub on Mad Sunday and then off out to Peel, wasn't it?
To the pub or through the pub?
Through the pub, up the front steps, through the S-bend in the pub, and then out through the back door. And because another place we used to frequent was the Farmer's Arms, when Dougie, bless him, and Angie Christian had the pub. We used to go in there Mad Sundays, which was one of our stopping off points. And there was one year where Dougie insisted that we brought one of the bikes in, because he had a wooden floor in the bar, and he insisted that we brought one of the bikes in because he wanted a black donut, a ring on the floor, you see. So we said, "Are you sure about this, Doug?" And yeah, bring the bike in. So Derry mentioned the bike before. The Pac Bragazzi's got this bike with a smoke machine attached to it. Well, Dougie had no idea that this was attached onto the bike, so we said, we're going to bring our special stuntman in. So we brought Pac's bike in, and he starts doing this donut on the floor, and anyway, he hits the button, and within seconds the whole pub was full of diesel smoke. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and he's spinning around on the floor, and people are running for the door, and within about 2 minutes the whole pub was evacuated, and it looked like it was on fire because there was smoke bellowing out through the windows. Even upstairs where Dougie and Angie lived, there was smoke bellowing out of the windows. It was like the place was on fire. So that cured Dougie. He didn't bother with it after that, did he?
But I think the hitch to that was he hadn't actually told Angie that he was going to have us in the pub with the bike, and she'd just had all the curtains cleaned for the TT. So by the time we'd been there, the whole pub stank of diesel smoke.
Yeah, and there's another pub that's been demolished.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to do with us being in the pubs that they get demolished, but it was great fun.
And somebody was going to ride off the bar, wasn't he?
Well, somebody's bike got, what can we describe it as? It was taken away, and he couldn't find his bike, and this was in the darkness of the evening, and later on it was found to be up at the top of the flagpole on the top of Timwold Hill. It had been roped up onto the top of the flagpole.
But they are just fantastic memories, and the memories that people will cherish, not just from the Isle of Man, but from around Europe and around the world who have seen the Purple Helmets. They'll certainly never be forgotten. And you and the team, a lot of them who are still anonymous, I've just, we thank you as public from the Isle of Man for the many, many years of entertainment that you've given the Isle of Man public.
That's very nice of you to say that, Simon. Thank you very much for this little interview, because if the people haven't seen us, there are a few little chances to see us now before it finishes off completely. And there's Ramsey Lifeboat Day, there's Peel Carnival, and there's Laxey Duck Race Day at the washing floors in Laxey by Glenroy there. And we chose that as our last venue because it is actually the last date on the summer calendar. But it's also rather a nice amphitheatre where a lot of people will be able to see us, and no doubt if the people are there for the duck race, they'll stay on a bit longer and see the very last show of the Purple Helmets. And it will be an emotional day, especially for me, because I have to speak, and there is a big love and fellowship between us all that could never be repeated.
The world famous Purple Helmets, everybody!
You've been listening to The Last Bash, celebrating 27 years of the Purple Helmet motorcycle display team, as this year will be their final year performing together. My guests were Derry Kissack, the voice of the Purple Helmets, and long-time member of the team, Jim Davidson. These programmes are available now on Manx Radio's website, powered by Miller Chaps of Ramsey, and you can download the podcast for free.
Purple rain.